Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations Podcast. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Simon Wizén. He is the guitarist, frontman, composer, as well as a founding member of the Swedish Black Metal band Valkyrja. Simon has also played with various other bands such as Darvaza, Ondskapt, Hobb's Angel of Death, as well as recently joining the infamous Marduk on the bass duties. Him and I had a very good conversation covering various different aspects of creativity, songwriting, as well as just the general history and the journey of Valkyria so far, considering that next year it will be their 20th anniversary. And what's that journey been like for him? And of course, I also had to ask him if there's going to be any news on another album, considering that their last record came out in 2018. And of course, he did disclose that, and we talked about it all on here. And we got to discuss a lot of things that I believe this was actually the first time that he shared a lot of these details on any public platform. So I was very thrilled to have him on the podcast, and he was an absolute gentleman, and I think you guys will really enjoy this one. And of course, I got to talk to him about his other bands as well that he has played with, as well as his recent experiences with Marduk, how they got followed at some airports in South America, and what those experiences were like. So shortly we'll be coming all of those conversations and more from my chat with Simon. Now, if you are new to the Iblis Manifestations podcast, first of all, welcome to our channel. If you do happen to enjoy my conversation with Simon and you would like to see more conversations like this with premier underground artists, especially within black metal, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel on whichever platform it is that you're listening to this. It has zero costs, and it does really help support the channel in many ways that you may not see from your end. But and we do have a very lengthy back catalog of other guests which have appeared on the podcast at the moment. So when you're finished with this episode, then you're more than welcome to go and visit some of those as well. We do also have other very high caliber underground artists from bands such as Achilles, Fetus Inversa, Darvaza, Mistherming, and Incantation, Necromantia, and all of the above. So you're more than welcome to visit those as well. Before we get into the episode, I would also like to make you aware that my band Trivex recently released its second full-length album, and we did so via the UK publishing house titled Cold Never Dies, and the album is called Illawa Burns Out. And if you wish to support it, you can do so by either going to the Trivex Bandcamp page or going to the Cold Never Dies myshopify.com. Alternatively, you can just search the name of the album and the band on YouTube, Spotify, or any streaming platforms. Personally, I'm an old school, so I like to hold the album physically in my hand, and I like to look through the artwork and read through the lyrics whilst blasting it out of the stereo. So if you're like me, then of course we do have the physical options available for you on our website, so you can go and check those out. And of course, we do very much appreciate your support. So now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Simon Wizén to Iblis Manifestations.
Myself
Okay, Simon, good evening, my friend, and welcome to Iblis Manifestations. What a pleasure to have you on, man. How have you been doing?
I'm pretty okay. Pleasure to be here as well. So good to catch up as well.
Yeah. It's I've been really looking forward to having you on, man, for a variety of different reasons. I mean, it was a good chat that we were having in Uppsala, Sweden, recently for Wattain's 25th year anniversary. It was a fucking awesome night. Actually, I'm really glad that you could make it. How have you been since then?
Pretty busy, like just following the previous tours. Yeah, just really busy getting home again and like getting into the routine. That kind of shit, takes
Sure.
time
Yeah.
consuming and like of course like a lot to catch up with that was not done.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a fucking busy year, man. I mean, we did like a mini UK tour together back in March when you were doing guitars for Darvaza, and
Right.
then literally, which was a great time, by the way, just for anyone
Yeah.
listening who missed out on those shows, with Trivex and Darvaza. They were awesome events. But only just like 2 3 months after that you end up becoming the bass player of Marduk, and their schedule, as we all know, is pretty fucking full throttle. So you've
Right.
already been to Asia and South America and everywhere. So just tell us a little bit, I guess, like what's life been like since joining Marduk as a bass player.
Well, like it started 2 months after our tour. Like was by the end of May. Like it was very sudden that I just jumped in to help them out with some shows. I was first asked to join to play at the Brutal Assault Festival in August, but then like the following day asked again, like, can you join us like in a week to play at Throne Fest? Like, yeah, sure. Like if you give me the set list tonight, I will start to practice immediately. But then the issue was like, well, there's gonna be a dual set with two different set lists, so that was challenging, of course. But I just felt like, okay, gotta if I say yes, then I don't want to be a compromise. I'm of course gonna do both sets, so I did, and that was by the end of May. But then they already had scheduled to do the festival season with Devo, the former bass player, who was already stepping in during some of the summer shows, except that Brutal Assault that I did, and then I kept playing with them. Like after that, we already started to talk like, okay, what's happening after the summer? Well, okay, there's the Asian tour. Yeah, sure, I'm on. Okay, there's the South American tour. Yeah, sure, I'm on, and so on. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't very busy with them during the summer. That's what I want to say. But then after, yeah, sure. The past 2 months, it's been a lot. It's been very intense.
Yeah, I mean, just even you joining them at very short notice. I remember you telling me that you basically had like what 1 week to learn two full set lists, and this is two headline sets, so like what, like couple of hours worth of songs you basically had to learn in 1 week.
Yeah, I think we did like 75 minutes both nights or something like that. So yeah, it was like 24,
Even
20.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking hell, man. That's dedication. I like it. I like it. I'm sure the band appreciated it. I mean, just take us through that. I mean, what's that like? First of all, how did you end up getting the call? Because Marduk's a big fucking deal. I'm personally been a big follower for years, since way back in Iran, and even through the years in the UK. They're always a band that have sort of set the bar very high for what this
Right.
genre is capable of, both as far as not just the music, but also the professionalism, but also the just the relentlessness of it, and the ideology that feeds into our
Right.
black metal culture, if you will. So yeah, just take us through that whole process. Like how did you end up getting asked? Were you surprised that you were asked, or what was the process like?
Honestly, I'm not too surprised, to be honest. But
Sure.
I know them really well. We have been touring together plenty of times, so I think that for them it was like a minor risk to ask me. They knew like exactly what they will get.
Mm-hmm.
We toured together with my band Valkyria and Marduk the first time in 2010, if I'm right, and then several times after that as well. So it's like we have some history of touring together as well. So I think for them it was a very simple and easy accessible option.
Okay, cool. I knew that you had toured together, but I didn't realize that it went as far back as 2010.
Yeah, and plenty of times after that as well. So um, I mean, we've been sharing the same bus several times, and it's you get to know each other on another level. So I think it was a very easy step for them as well, and for me too. Like I knew exactly who they are, so it was no risk in that.
Sure, sure. I appreciate that. So, what did that week look like when you had to learn those two set lists?
I mean, I've done some jobs before for bands, like stepping in, doing some show here and there. Like you mentioned the Darvasa thing, for example. And what I usually do is that I just listen a lot to the songs until I dream about them pretty much. They're really there. Like
Yeah.
I know them by heart, and then it's really simple to just pick up an instrument and start to dig into it and follow the songs. But the Marduk songs knew a lot of them beforehand, but maybe not all of them by heart. But then I didn't really have time to do that kind of process, so it was like from the first second, it was like pure fucking stress. Like it was like, okay, I gotta do this, and also that this is a band that has a reputation, so I gotta represent it as well. I cannot stand there and just look like, okay, what the fuck is the next note here? Um, I need to I need to know what I'm doing. So it was like from the first second it was instant stress, and I was just like practicing a lot. I was waking up in the mornings like way earlier than I had to, and just like laying there. Why am I trying to sleep? I should just get up, practicing some bass instead. And that's what I did for like the whole week. So it was a major achievement and relief after those shows to feel like, okay, sure, there's room for improvements, but it definitely worked out.
I totally appreciate that, man. And hats off to you for your dedication and commitment, and for not just taking the band's legacy seriously, but also taking your own reputation seriously as well. I suppose the same probably cannot be said for the member just before you, but that's a different topic. I
Yeah,
mean, I told you already that I was there at the Incineration Festival.
right.
When all of that happened. I was right at the front, and man, it was a shit show. And
Yeah,
the thing with Marduk as well is that just sonically speaking, because obviously there were like the stage antics and stuff, and honestly, from I get that people might have different viewpoints of this, but for me, like even like the whole salute thing that Joel did, like was not even the worst of what he did. I mean, like I think that he was granted being fired from the band long before that. This is my personal opinion as a fan of the band, as someone who takes music very seriously. Because it pretty much like during soundcheck, I remember it was kind of like you could tell something was slightly off, but there was still that sense of anticipation. This is a fucking headline set in London, Electric Ballroom, sold out fucking festival, big fucking deal. Like
right.
it's a really really cool show, and we were all really looking forward to it. And something between them doing sound check and then coming on stage, I feel like happened where he just like entered the void and basically went on stage, not even playing notes. And the tricky thing with Marduk is that sonically speaking, it's a four-piece band, so you've only got one guitar and one bass. So if the bass is off, you're really gonna fucking hear it.
You're
And
pretty vulnerable there.
yeah, exactly. Which again, goes to show the pressure that you must have felt when trying to learn all those songs. But also, I felt terrible for the band. I mean, Marduk have been around for 30 plus years. You think of all the hard work, sweat, the sacrifices they've been on the road as much as anyone else, if not more than probably most black metal bands, as far as just consistency and the history, if it is concerned. Really, really like proper fucking road dogs, and there's so much that's gone into the legacy. And for someone who's been in the band for 2 years to get so shit faced and then come on stage and make such a fuckery of the whole thing, I felt pissed off. I felt really pissed off on behalf of the band, and I was surprised that he not to sound like a dick, but I was surprised that he kind of stayed in the band as long as he did for like up to a week. But I'm guessing they never saw what happened
Right. Yeah, it took
until those
took a
videos
couple of
came out.
days until the truth revealed, I think. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the thing. But yeah, it's a pity it all had to happen, like both for the band and for him as well, of course. Like
Mm,
it's not what he wanted, but it happened,
sure.
snapped in a way.
Yeah, yeah, it's very unfortunate, man. I mean, listen, like just because I am I don't drink or anything like that. I don't judge other people, you know. I think it's at the end of the day it's about doing the music, you know, and just being fucking professional about it, you know. So whatever you need to do as long as that stage time, you know, you make it on stage on
Yeah,
time, you perform the songs well and you do what you're supposed to do, then it's all good by me. But man, that was not the case on that night, you know. It was a very unfortunate, very sad thing to witness, but I think what at least I guess on the positive side of it, what comes out is the fact that you jumped in and then you took the opportunity as seriously as you did, and I guess now you're reaping the rewards. I mean, are you thinking that I don't know if there's any plans or anything like that, but are you thinking that maybe you'll be sticking to the Marduk guys for the long run now, hopefully?
that's probably very likely, but I don't want to say anything until it's official about it. So
Sure.
yeah, of course there is more shows coming up now where I'm booked, so we keep on going.
Okay, well, that's great news to me, man. And just to sort of bring the Marduk thing to wrap as well, because I really want to talk to you about Valkyria and everything
Yeah,
else that you've got going on. But just as an anecdote, you were mentioning to me when we were talking in Sweden that you had people waiting at the airport for you guys, like stalking
right.
you
Yeah.
professionally, like at a professional level. I mean, what was going on there? How did they know that you were even going to be there?
I'm really surprised by the dedication. Like, but I guess it's a cultural thing as well. There, and we're talking especially now about South America, but yeah, there
Mm.
were people like every day at the airport, at the hotels, at the venues, like both, of course, for the sound check, but also after. Like, there was always someone somewhere waiting for like a photo opportunity or a signature or something like that, or even like giving gifts. Like, I got a Kiss card deck. Someone knew I was a Kiss fan, so he gave me a Kiss card deck. So, like, sure, yeah, why not? But
Wow.
it's uh, I'm not really flattered by the whole thing. To me, it's like it's a bit weird, like, to put yourself on such a different level than another human like that. I do understand it to some extent, but it's a bit overwhelming and a bit too intense, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're establishing the dynamic of the relationship by being like basically an extreme fanboy and then putting the
Yeah,
other person on a pedestal. So I
right.
feel like the other person, being the artist, doesn't really get left with much of a choice other than to act from the pedestal, if that makes sense. So I think it takes a lot
It
to
does, and
still.
that's why, like, sometimes, you're a fucking tired human being at the airport and nothing more, and that's what you want to be, and you just want to get to like bed or something as quick as possible, and you maybe don't want to be that person at the moment.
Yeah, and the thing that no one really talks about, you know, I mean, I can completely appreciate the humility and still being like level-headed and still talking to people
Mm,
and still maintaining that connection with them because obviously they really care about connecting with you, you know, now
right, right.
people go through different measures to make that happen.
Yeah,
But I think it's yeah, it takes a lot of energy, I think, to just make sure that that person walks away with a good memory of you. I mean, some people don't give a shit about this, you know, they're like, yeah, whatever. They're accustomed to it, you know. I've heard plenty of stories of big rock stars, you know, who completely shit on people just because they're so accustomed to
yeah,
being approached all the time, you know. But either way, even for like a very small scaled band like ourselves, I still feel like when I get approached by people at shows, even at shows we're not playing, there's still that degree of, okay, I have to spend some energy to make sure that this interaction is it's not to say that you're not being authentic, but it's the fact that you're connecting with someone you don't know, so there's
yeah,
that little bit of tension there, and when there's that tension there, it takes extra energy to make something of the connection at least.
yeah. And I mean, of course, I can represent my bands at any time. It's not about that, but it's maybe that, like, for example, if you're at an airport or something, you're just, you know, you want to be a private person as well, and maybe you don't want to have that face, if you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
then okay, so now I need to think that I'm acting like this person who is like on the pedestal, like you said, like now I'm the Marduk bass player, now I'm not just a tired guy at the airport, you know.
Yes.
You get my point.
Yeah,
That's not what you
exactly.
want to do at any time. I'm still saying, like, I do represent it any day. It's not about that, but or respect it and all of that. It's not about like a show off or something. It's not what I'm saying, but that mentally you're maybe not that person.
Yeah, I completely appreciate that. And I guess it must be
Or that
somewhat
state of mind to say.
yeah, exactly. I appreciate it must be somewhat nerve-wracking as well. I mean, I guess you've obviously been in multiple other bands anyway, other than Valkyria, so it's not like this is your first rodeo with that whole dynamic, but I appreciate it's still not perhaps completely easy when you feel like you're representing, I guess, someone else's work and legacy is like something maybe you can have to be extra careful with, or I don't know how you approach that dynamic.
I think it comes naturally. I haven't really been thinking about it actively like that. Like now I have to be like now I have to represent Marduk. I mean, in some way I do it, of course, as I'm there, but it's natural.
Sure. Well,
There's no like codex, so there's nothing to apply. Like this is how we behave or something like that. It's more simple than that.
yeah, of course. I think that's the best way to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Yeah. I think it's good to obviously like have boundaries and respect, and just for yourself, for the bandmates, and also for the fans. Like it's good to
Yeah.
kind of have a stable dynamic there. But I do also think that it's one of them where I guess you just gotta be yourself. You don't
Right.
want to change who you are in a sense. But I also feel like that's something that perhaps comes a little bit with age. I mean,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've seen like old interviews of you from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I
A
gotta
bit more
say, man,
rebellious.
yes, that's it. I think rebellious is a good word. But I guess the
Like
spirit of
short worded
rebellion.
and thinking that every question is stupid or something like that.
I
But
think
yeah,
I think I think
that
the
was another
spirit of
time. Sorry.
I think the spirit of rebellion remains. It's just that I guess we kind of get better at expressing it, where it's
Yeah.
not to our own detriment, in a
Right.
sense.
Yeah. I just think before we drop it, I don't know if I told you the example like when we spoke at the show last time, but um like the weirdest one was like we were flying from one city. I don't remember which one, probably somewhere, probably Antofagasta in Chile, and we had to go to Buenos Aires with a layover in Santiago.
This is with Marduk,
This is with Marduk. This is a couple of weeks
right?
ago, but we had a layover in Santiago, but we had to change terminal. So we had to get our luggage and move to another terminal to check into the like international flights. And also there were people, and how the fuck can they know that we were there at that given time? Even it was not even sure that we would travel that very day because there was no show at that day. We could have been traveling one day later or something, but there were people there. So what I wonder is like, since there were people there, is there like people at the wrong place at the right time, and is there also people at the right place at the wrong time and so on? Is there people like waiting here and there? Right? You get my concern about this.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
really weird how they could know about this.
yeah, someone's really sat there paying attention to the laws of probability and
Mhm.
trying to figure out where you guys are, just
Right,
so they can say hello, basically, right?
right.
That's
Yeah, but that's
fucking
about it.
crazy. Yeah. But to be fair, that's another thing as well. Like, on one hand, yes, it's crazy. Maybe to some extent, it's even weird. But on the other hand, I do think that it's the receipt of something that I think is very beautiful, which is just the passion that music invokes in all of us. I
Right.
mean, just speaking of Marduk alone, one crazy fucking thing that I did back in, so when I was like 15 years old, Obviously, I was still in Iran at this time. Iran being a heavily Islamic country, obviously, like the last thing they want is to have someone who's listening to Marduk of all the fucking
Right.
bands. And there was one particular event. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's worth bringing it up again just in case. But basically, it was like a gathering that our school was doing at the time. It's like a high school. But then it's all male only. Because in like Islamic countries they separate boys and girls from kindergarten, so it's like
Hmm.
boys only. Everyone's fucking full of testosterone, and then we go into this Islamic praying room in North Iran where we were on this trip. And then basically everyone's in that room, everyone's doing the Islamic prayers, whatever, Allah Akbar, blah, blah, blah. And then fucking afterwards, they were all like, oh, guys, it's the last night that we were all here, so let's do a gathering, So they all gathered. And for whatever reason, I'd actually taken my electric guitar to that trip with me. Now, most of the people there, par maybe like two or three of my close friends, did not actually understand what it was that I was doing. They just knew I was a musician. They didn't understand that I followed this extremely like anti-religious music genre or whatever. And bear in mind that if they had known that, like that's the kind of shit you get killed for over there, if they find that you're an apostate of any type, or you're going against the government or religion, you're fucked. They'll
Right.
completely they'll destroy you. And they've got legal rights to do that. Okay, that's what it means when it's the Islamic Republic. So anyway, long story short, everyone was gathering upstairs in that praying room, and then they were like, oh yeah, Cheyenne, why don't you bring your guitar up here now that we're all here, and we'll gather and play. So I was like, okay, and I had this like small fucking 10-inch Laney amp, and then I took it upstairs with me, and I still had my Yamaha, one of those like cheap, like kind of like Strat looking black Yamahas, and
Hmm.
uh, and at first I played this like clean song that was one of my own, but then afterwards I proceeded to play Baptism by Fire.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
All right.
yeah. To which, of course, like when you got the electric guitar on its own, like maybe it's not exactly as thing, but they didn't know what it was that I was doing, but then they thought it was really cool, so they all started clapping along. So there I am as a 15-year-old playing Marduk's Baptism by Fire inside an Islamic playing room,
Must have been the
praying
only
room.
time it was performed in such an environment,
Absolutely,
like in
it's
that
kind of
context.
like, yeah, it's taking it behind enemy lines, which I think is
Yeah.
very appropriate. So that's a very
Yeah.
fond memory that I have that I'll never forget.
Rebellious
But
as
yeah,
fuck, man.
it is, yeah. What's fucking the biggest letdown about that is the fact that we had a camera guy who actually documented the whole trip for us,
Apart from
but
that.
yes. Well, no, he filmed it, but after the trip, when they sort of reviewed some of the shit that we had been doing, because me and my friends, because alcohol is illegal, we were all drinking Coca Cola and mixing it with
Hmm.
ethanol because we didn't have access to alcohol and whatever. Everyone was like smoking and doing all kinds of criminal shit. But when they basically realized the scope of the things that we were doing, including my performance at the Islamic Praying Center, they realized that they had to basically destroy that footage. At least this is my understanding of it, because it would have ruined that school's reputation like very very badly. And they were one of the schools that had ties with the government. Um, so yeah, basically that footage got destroyed. Otherwise, I would have absolutely loved to have shared that with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least I get to tell the story here. So here we are.
Right. I didn't hear about it before, so thank you for telling.
Of course, yeah. My
Yeah.
pleasure, man. My pleasure. No, but listen, it's great to see what you're doing with the band, and it's great to see, like sometimes opportunity comes knocking on our doors, and
Right.
it's up to us what we make of it, really.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, this time it was pretty easy to just go along, but I've been doing stuff before, that's true, but now like the last years I've been like very restrictive and mostly focused on my own thing. Like it was one thing when I was like, yeah, well, I'm not that old, but younger and like had an endless source of energy. Then it was very easy to do everything, but it's not anymore. Now
Sure.
energy needs to be focused.
Yes. Yes, yeah, I completely appreciate that. I mean, thinking of that, just like kind of going back in time as well, and just coming on to the subject of Valkyria as well. I mean, it's been 10 years now. You just had the 10-year anniversary of the Antagonist Fire coming out.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
That's the
great
third
fucking
album
album,
with me.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, of course. That's a great record. I think I remember that when it came out because I think I must have discovered you guys just before, so maybe like a year prior to that, maybe
Mm.
2012 or so. So I remember when you released that, listening to it and just being like, man, this is a fucking cool record. I mean, one thing that I always really appreciated about your style of songwriting. I mean, first of all, actually, tell us like how much of the songwriting is basically your duty, or do you sit down with the rest of the guys and create together? Like, take me through the process a little bit without obviously revealing too much, I guess.
No, no, I'm in the beginning of the band. We were like that. Obviously, like we were young, we were naive, and we were like spending as much time as we could in the rehearsal room, like just playing together and like showing riffs and so on, like composing more together. But then that was like only maybe the first year, and then I started to do more and more on my own.
Right.
We usually always put together the song like that we at least rehearse it before we record it. But for the last albums, I would say the last three at least. So yeah, okay, not the first album, but the rest of them. I've been like mostly doing pre-productions at home, rehearsed it, maybe altered minor things, but most of the creation has been in solitude.
Very cool. That's actually, you know what, funnily enough, that's exactly how I compose music as well. I think there's just something that comes to when you're working on your own. I mean, there's benefits to working in a group as well,
There,
but there's one thing in particular then that I can definitely commend you on now, knowing that you were sat there making these on your own. But it's all
yeah.
of these. There's a very percussive element to the music of Valkyria, which is and then you've got all these like funny like cool and quirky like drum beats and things that sort of go in and out. It happens once and then it
Mm-hmm.
never happens again, and then like the
Yeah,
song carries on, but it all flows very well together. Like
yeah.
to me, especially some of the riffing as well is very reminiscent of I guess Hetfield's style of riffing, where it's so percussive that the riffs are almost talking to you. Does that make sense? Do you feel like that's something that you relate to
I
with your
didn't really
music?
think about it in that sense, but you're pinpointing something that is one of my personal like real theories about songwriting is like it's one thing about making a riff, there's one thing about making another riff, but sometimes what's most important is what happens between, or the tension between them. um, which is why especially I think maybe the one I worked with it most is actually the Antagonist Fire, where there's a lot of things happening like between the riffs more than like in the riffs. There's contrast, there's movements. Uh, to me, music is a lot about contrast as well. Like the part before will affect how you feel when you're approaching this next part. So it's like you first you're calibrating the mind in this way, and then it transforms into this, and your perception will follow. You get my point. And that's something
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
something I think about a lot when I write music. And it's not just about like having one riff and then put the next riff after, like four times this, four times that, and no, it's more about the tension between the parts and the movements. How do you transcend from here to here? That's I
A-
focus a lot about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a song is perfectly put. Like, I hate it when I listen to a song where it just feels like it's a riff bank. Like someone just wrote a bunch of riffs and then put them
Yeah,
next to each other with no thought or nothing, and then it's just kind of like, okay. But then I like it when there's different passages or or basically you create this monstrous experience, and our brains respond to this thing, where it's like every section can have like an introduction of its own, the way it kicks in, the way it comes in. I
right.
think that there's so much, and especially I honestly don't think there's much other styles of music out there like black and death metal where you have the opportunity to make the structure whatever the fuck you want it to be, basically. I mean, unless it's like prog rock or something, there's
It's
so much.
completely lawless in that sense. You're absolutely right. It's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, there's nothing wrong with like having a chorus. There's nothing wrong with like having bridges and things like that. But it's
Hmm.
how you approach that. I think it's very powerful, and and I think that there's something about that happens that, especially when you perform live, you see this get translated. Where sometimes a certain specific build up before a certain riff kicks in gets the crowd in such a fucking mood that as soon as that riff kicks in, every time they fucking lose their shit and then they start
Like
moshing
a
and fucking.
true release.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Whereas if you just had that riff on its own, maybe it wouldn't have had the same effect.
right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm, uh, I'm totally there as well. And I pay attention a lot to that when I write music. Not necessarily about to be those like for the audience to like lose it, but for me like to tell something interesting with the song itself.
Yeah, sure. I guess it's kind of like the way I look at songwriting in general is that you're decorating time. Okay. So what you're doing is almost you're creating a simulation for yourself to sit through and experience. It's almost like building your own roller coaster and then going through it over and over again because you know exactly what happens, but it excites you and it makes you feel good.
Yeah,
That's why I think that in a lot of bands, especially like whether it's the frontman or the person who writes the music, loses their shit the most because it's a simulation that we've
mhm.
created for ourselves. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
something you relate to.
yeah. It's actually a pretty interesting way to put it. I wouldn't have picked the same words, but I do definitely follow your example here. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
no,
And I
it's
think that's yeah.
I think especially like about performing live. Yeah, you know that first I was the guitarist only, like that is still like my instrument. I compose with the guitar and so on, but since 2018 I also handle the vocals. You know about that, right?
Of course. Yes, yeah, yeah. I'm aware of this.
So like this is of course it's even more intense. It's like another element, so it's another tool for expression. So like both playing the leads and singing is is the ultimate way of expressing it live. Like you go through all the senses like at once. And what you said, like I think there's few moments ever that I experience in the same way as performing live, where you're so present in time. Like there is nothing else than this moment, because I mean, in one way, you could say that you're so focused on it that nothing else really exists than this. But maybe that was about the first shows, but now I must say that it's not a focus, but it's like it's a constant flow of energy, like that keeps flowing through the entire set. It's a constant flow of energy that keeps you engaged in the present time. Like there is no space for reflection. You're not there, like you're not thinking about what you're doing. You are what you're doing all the time.
Yes.
You're so present in it that in a way, like you're losing yourself in the process. You're not
Yeah.
thinking about who you are. You're not even thinking that you're a messenger or something like it. You are just a form of pure energy and a constant flow. That's how I see it as performing live nowadays, and that's I think the only time that I can experience such. Like I cannot think about anything else where I have exactly the same pulse or like connection or disconnection to the world to start with.
I think making love is a close second, maybe.
It works for a while, right?
Yeah. But no, listen, I to completely agree with you, man. It's such a fascinating thing. I mean, I don't know for anyone who's not experienced performing live on stage. I think it's just, especially when you say that you've created your own songs and then you just kind of like get the flow into it, and then it's yeah. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and it's one of them things. It's very hard to describe what is actually happening, and I would love to see some legitimate brain studies on
Hmm.
people who are very serious into black metal and have been performing it for a very long period of time. But I think, yeah, it's like you're so present that you're not even there anymore. It's
Exactly.
like,
That's
yeah,
exactly what I mean. So it's like
yeah.
it's a perfect balance between existence and non-existence in a way. You're existing so much that you completely lose yourself. Yeah, I
It
mean, you're so
really,
present.
it really makes me wonder on just even the idea of the consciousness and what the fuck it is that we're even doing, because to me it feels like you channel through some larger web of somewhere.
Yeah,
Like, yes, your body might be here, but it feels like you're bigger somehow. You're connected to
mm.
something that's like a cloud that's bigger than just your a vessel. And I think it makes it especially powerful when you have people in the crowd that know the songs. I feel like that somehow creates like almost like an egregore. It gives this invisible space
It
in,
amplifies.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
almost like there's a space somewhere in beyond the third dimensions where these songs actually exist and have a life. And the
yeah,
more that you're all connecting over it and you're expecting and anticipating the next part or the lyrics or whatever it is, it feels like it just has this life to it, and a lot of times you might be playing like very complicated notes and riffs and trying to do vocals at the same time, but then it's like you put very well, it's just flowing through. You don't feel anything. It's just like
right.
one straight thing, and then the songs and the notes and everything is just pouring out of you. It's only like sometimes when you watch a video afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But like when you're going through it, it's very hard thing to observe. Sometimes I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes I feel like when you come off stage, it's almost like you just woke up from a dream. Do
Yeah,
you feel
right.
that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No,
What do you think that is?
no, I think it's I think this is just how our mind works. That we are so caught in the moment that it's it's another it's another state of being. It's another presence than what you're used to. But it is there, and it's as real as it is now that you and I are talking, which kind of means that it is there all the time. It's just that all the rest that we're doing is so dull that we don't feel it, right? I think if you had the chance to do everything for if whatever you did was for the first time all the time, like now I'm taking this glass of water and it's the first time in my life that I'm lifting this glass of water and that I feel like water in my mouth, I would probably be like really amazed, right? What if I could have that feeling every time I drank water? Do you see what I mean? It is
You make
probably
an
there all
interesting
the time,
point.
but I drank water so many times that it doesn't do anything to me.
Mm.
Do you get my point?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. You make a very interesting point.
I think it's there all the time. It's just that we that's the way you connect to it.
Yeah.
It because it's a unusual setting. It's not what how you. I mean, even if we did it, both you and me, many times, it's not the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning or so. It's something different, and it's you feel very serious at the time. Um, you're in another state of mind. But I think you could be that uh, on a more daily basis as well if you were calibrated that way.
Yeah, I think you make a very interesting point there. And again, I think that the way that I've sort of tried to interpret this in my own way is that when you're performing on stage, that frontman thing that comes out, whatever it is, or just any part of the band, I feel like it's a part of the personality that gets projected. That I mean, first off, it's healthy to recognize that maybe that's not all of your personality, or your soul, spirit, whatever it is. But it's also equally healthy to recognize that that is a part of your personality and your being that exists, which perhaps doesn't belong in day-to-day life.
Mm.
The way that I sort of try and measure this and equate it, because that's not an easy thing to do. And then obviously, like everyone can probably already tell from just the esoteric element of this very same conversation. But I think that the way that I try and understand it and at least put some sort of a measure on it is the fact that the thing that gets projected when you're on stage is a very similar part of our being as you would if in case you were going to war. So there's this adrenaline fueled reptilian part of the brain where you're extremely focused, but also almost like you're so about the execution that that the way you process emotions is different to how you would in your day-to-day life. The energy that gets channeled out of you, I mean, you just feel bigger as a person. It's like a very
Mm.
weird thing, you know, like you do all these reflexes and things get activated, which on a day-to-day basis you have no use for them. um,
Right.
and I think that perhaps what happens in the case of performing black metal or death metal live or whatever, if you do take it seriously enough, is that you use that part, that same inherent part of your DNA and psyche that you may have done in the past if you had gone to wars or gone to battles or been in
Yeah.
like very powerful and intense situations.
It sounds right what you're saying. I cannot just like compare it to anything myself, as I do not have the experience, so it's difficult to say. Yeah, it's that, you know.
Sure.
But it does sound. Yeah, it sounds appealing in that way. Like it's good. It's at least a part of it. It's how you feel about it. Uh, I think it's also the fact that you know that you're doing something, and maybe subconsciously you also know, like, I'm judged from what I'm doing right now and I have one chance to do it. You see what I
Yeah,
mean? Like this is the time it matters. Like I only got one shot. It's
that's
now.
right. Yeah. And
No, I
you
cannot
almost don't
say
even think
let's
about it.
take that from the beginning, guys. That's not what you do. You're not killing the mood like that, right? So
Yeah.
you have one chance.
Absolutely. Well,
That's
I'm a
how I
huge
feel.
fan of yeah, I'm a huge fan of UFC and watching fighting in
Mm.
general. And that's something that obviously going on stage and performing black metal is not the same risk as going somewhere and getting fucking kneed in the in the tit or whatever. But but it's like it's very dire consequences, when you're on that stage. But I feel like in the octagon rather. But I feel like when you're on stage, at the very least, it's the same activation of the part of the brain, or at least it's got to be. I think it is. Like that nervousness. Like I've heard Mike Tyson talk about how he used to feel before he went on stage, and where he would, like, at first he was like terrified, like sometimes but then as he would get closer to the stage he would feel more powerful, stronger, and then he's like, yeah, I've got this. And it's like
Yeah.
that to me is that feels totally identical to how I have felt. And I'm sure probably, even though it's something we never talk about, especially you Swedish guys, because you're also closed off, uh, but I think it's like a very identical feeling,
Yeah.
of just going on stage and fucking destroying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, by the way, like, what kind of plans have you got coming up with Valkyria? With it being like I think it's your 20-year anniversary next year, right?
That's very true. We got to do something about it. That's for sure.
Okay.
Not gonna say what, and I cannot really say that I'm uh, sure about what either. But there will definitely be something, and I've been working on new material for years, but it's my fault that it takes too much time. It's a matter of time, sadly. Um, I've been having the wrong focuses privately to achieve the fifth album the way I wanted. Like we had a plan to record already like 2 years ago, but
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm not there yet. But I have material from like from the last 5 years and also from before that. And there's so many songs that I started, and I just need to finish my projects and sort out what I want to do with the next one.
I
But
mean, it has been a little while since your last album. That was like what,
5 years,
2018, I think.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's too long. The plan was to go to the studio sooner, but I don't know, something happened, and it's my fault. I take the blame privately. I've been having the wrong focus. It shifted
Okay.
during the COVID years. I was just like engaging myself too much in my own company and work, and it's just been draining energy. That's the truth.
So you're saying that you've been putting your focus mostly on personal stuff like work. You refer to that as wrong focus. I'm fascinated by this take,
No,
because
but
it's still a choice.
like I started my own company to remain flexible, but it became my own prison in a way because I've been working so much. It's just been increasing year by year, and yeah, especially during the COVID years, I just started to do more, and it kept also increasing after. And I didn't find the right balance. That's the truth. That's why I have been a bit too slow on the creative side, because I think um, when you're draining your energy like that, the first thing that you're losing is creativity. And I'm usually a really creative person, but when I'm not creative, I can see that something is a bit off there, and it's been off for a
Mm,
while. So
I
that's a
can.
bitter truth.
No, I can appreciate that, and I appreciate you being so candid about it. Actually, what
It's probably the first time I say it like officially like that, but that's it.
Sure, man. Listen, I do completely understand that, I mean, if it's any consolation, I do actually relate to that feeling of, like sometimes when the creativity is not there and you kind of know why because you're so caught up in something else.
Yeah,
I do understand that, and listen, life is very demanding, it's like, and there's never fucking enough time to do anything. There's never enough weekends. There's never enough days in a week. There's never enough
hours,
years.
months, years. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it is our most valuable currency, and listen, life takes fucking time, whether it's with work,
Yeah,
whether it's with bands, whether it's relationships, like holy fuck, that's why earlier as well when I was complimenting what Marduk have done and basically appreciating their legacy is because of the time that it takes to fucking build that. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
And the same applies to Valkyria as well. I mean, 20 years, man. That's a very, very long time to be
It
doing what
is
you guys have been doing, at the style and at the pace and everything that you've done. So
more than
I
half of my
think
life.
exactly, right, right. That's a crazy way to fucking look at it. This is
Yeah,
more than half of your existence has been
yeah,
going you know? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's a
Mind blowing in a
fascinating
way.
thing. Yeah, but listen, I'm sure that people will at least be happy to have some kind of an update, because they'll always assume the worst. So the fact that you're even saying that is probably, I think that's
Yeah.
still an optimistic thing, right?
I've never been much for like social medias and communication that way. I try to speak through the music and like not say too much until there's something concrete. Like
Mm.
that has been the approach. But I know the it looks a little bit different nowadays. People need to be like reminded, if I can say that word, like continuously. I'm a little bit allergic to that, but I should probably participate in it more to still be recognized. But I don't know. I'm not worried about it. There will be a time for us as well, for sure.
Absolutely. I think it's all about the balance, man. It's all about
Yeah.
having a balance, and you don't want to do something that you hate to do, like at the end of the day you're doing the music, presumably so because you need to fucking do it, not because it's a convenience or it's something that you just choose to do because oh it feels nice, like it's
Mhm.
something that you have to do and you have to get this shit out of your system. So
Yeah,
um, um
absolutely. That's absolutely right. I know that I have a lot of more to give, so there will be more.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
you've obviously also developed a lot as a person in the last let's just say 20 years, or even when the Antagonist Fire came out 10 years ago, which I would consider that very much to be a highlight album.
Are you
I was
telling me that
actually
I developed as a person since I was 15? Can you update me, please?
I mean, I'm being very
I'm kidding.
presumptuous
I'm
here.
kidding. Of course.
I'm being very presumptuous. I'm only hoping for the best here.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What
But
did you say? The antagonist.
yeah, just saying that obviously, like, because when whatever developments you're going through as a person, I mean, first of all, I think one of the best things that you did was get your beard trimmed, because I think the cleaner
Huh.
look suits you a lot
No way.
better. Yeah. But
Yeah.
more importantly than that,
Secondly.
it's the personal development that we go through, and that always reflects in the music as well. So I'm sure that you probably feel like with the degree of maturity that you've gained as a person, perhaps even from going to starting your own business and everything, and all the travels and everything that you've done, at the very least, that
Hmm.
should create for some additional extra motivation or of wanting to put something out there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you go through in life, like, is is reflecting in the outcome of your creations. I mean, but it's all of it. It's all of it combined. Like it's a smooth of all of it, right? We just have everything that we experience, and I mean, it's cool like that as well. Like you mentioned, like all the traveling, you um, come to different cultures. You are in a new context. You challenge yourself by being somewhere where you don't know how it works here. Like it's not where should I go, where should I not, like whatever. Like there's um that's like, yeah, how to say it, like leaving your comfort zone, all of that. I think that has a big impact on creativity as well, and not only creativity itself, but what you're doing with it. Like you said, like the progression of it. You have more input, you have more output, right?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, absolutely, man. I think yeah, and sometimes life just demands different things from you. Like one thing that I find is interesting, like just speaking of creativity, some of the stuff that I actually really enjoyed that you did outside of Valkyria was the time that you spent in Ondskapt.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I'm a huge fan of that band as well. It's a shame that they recently just disintegrated. Like
Yeah.
literally, like what, like only just a few months ago, I think it happened. It's not been long
Yeah,
since.
something like that. I think they played a live show earlier this year, or if it was last year, I'm not sure, but they were like kind of getting started again, because that was the first live show since I was still in the band, which was like 8 years ago or something. I don't know when did we play the last show. No, 2016, I think that was the last one. Yeah, that's
Sure,
already 7 years ago.
sure, I understand, and I think, in my honest opinion, I think you were with them for some of their best stuff as well. I mean, for Horizon from the Ashes, I thought that was a
Mm.
fantastic album, and one of the opening track, Ominous Worship of the Divine. I think that's a fucking killer song. Really,
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, we worked it out. It was a chaotic time, but we did it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I remember seeing like pictures of you with like a. I don't know if you had like a Dean Razorback or something for a little while, or maybe if it was the Gibson that I saw you with.
That's right behind me.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've had that guitar for a while. Not sure. Yeah, I probably used it in Ondskapt as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's a. I mean,
Well, I've been using some different ones in the like the last tour we did and the last shows. I was using my Fender as well, so the Stratocaster. That was even
right
better.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
simple.
bold move using a Fender Stratocaster on black metal. I fucking love it.
And it worked. Sounded good, and yeah, we were doing something more like simple for a while, like not so, yeah, giving like focus on the lead singer, and the band was more like laid back. That was the last approach we did was the last 2 years or something.
Sure. Hey, that's very cool, man. By the way, that guitar, the Explorer behind you, is that the one that you had on fire in that picture?
No, that one is on the other side of the room.
All right, because you were saying that you're actually restoring that thing now after setting it ablaze.
Yeah, it's I started to work on it like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I haven't really touched it since then. But you want to see it or what?
Yeah, go on then. For everyone watching
right.
this, I'm sure they'll be pleased. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, gotta get it. All right. Let's see if I can get some light in there. Here we go.
Oh yes.
So yeah, it's pretty damaged, but I mean now it will be a cool finish instead. That's how it looks.
That's fucking awesome, man. So for anyone listening, Simon's just showing off this Gibson Explorer, which he set on fire during the Valkyria photo shoot, and the thing looks fucked, but it looks like you've done some great restoration work on it.
Yeah, I was putting in some new wood here as well because this part was like all open. And there's some wood here still, but it's thin as paper. But yeah,
Sure.
and one day it will be restored. I'm gonna try play it again. We'll see.
That would be sick. Does it feel naturally lighter? Because I'm guessing a lot of the moisture will have just turned into fucking steam and left the wood from the body.
You're absolutely right about that. It's like really heavy on the front now. So yeah, it's really light. That's true.
Ha. Physics.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's also like I don't know how good this will ever be. Like it will be a bit painful to play it, but fuck it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I mean,
so it's like it's I'll see how I can restore it.
So here's my theory. If hypothetically you happen to do a 20-year anniversary show, you need to have this guitar restored for it, so you can use it for at least one song.
Yeah, maybe I should just give it to some professional who can fix it for me. Although I like to do stuff like that myself, but then it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I like those kind of like extra edges to art and things like that, and I guess that's not really the kind of thing you see very often. I mean, what was the photo shoot itself like, because that must have been hot.
I was holding the guitar like over my face like this, and the flames were like licking my face. So we're doing like 15-20 seconds or something, and then we had to stop and then like do it again. Then yeah, we just needed a few good shots, but I think we did it like, I'm not sure exactly, but between 5-10 times something, just to be sure to get some good shots.
Sure. I mean, listen, fire is a bitch to work with for photo shoots. I've done it before, man. Yeah. It's such a pain in the ass. We did these for our new album with Trivex. We did this photo shoot with Esther Sagara down in this chapel in southern London. It's the same one that actually Grave Miasma did a photo shoot there as well. So you'll probably recognize the background if you look at both pictures. And we had these two fireballs. And or firballe, as you guys might say, but or at least in Norway I think they say that. But anyway, we had these things, and then we had to use some paraffin inside them, and yeah, it was a bitch to get them going, because every time you're taking the photos, like one is lit up on the other end, and then the other one goes down, and then you gotta do the other one, like it was because we were lighting them up from the top as well. And honestly, by the end of it, there was that much smoke and CO2. I don't know how much fucking brain cells we all lost from doing the shoot, but it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, we did it once in a tunnel, and we were burning like we collected like a lot of wood and leaves, and it was smoking so much. Like it was like completely full of smoke. Everyone was just coughing all the time, so it was really difficult to make a good picture. but it worked.
Yeah.
We got one or something, but that was a long time ago. But yeah, it was like full of smoke in that tunnel then from leaves. It was not the best thing to burn.
Yeah, man.
Dry
Fucking
leaves.
yeah. The fucking black metal bands are just a health hazard to nature completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got to be done. I like it. I really like these things. And it always not only it's a statement for art, but I feel like these kind of things always make for great memories as well. It's the thing that when you tend to ponder back on the history of the band and your legacy, those are the kind of things that I feel like you remember the most.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I gotta restore it before the 20 years anniversary.
There we go. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's great, man. So, Simon, so when this perhaps might be a bit of a deep question, but obviously, with us being like 20 years deep into the legacy of Valkyria, if you will, how do you reflect back on yourself from when you first started this journey, and how much do you sort of credit Valkyria to your own personal growth and transformation thus far?
oh, it's been extremely important, I would say. Like, I mean, looking back to when we started, I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it felt like I knew exactly what I'm doing, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it
Right.
takes it's trial and error thing. But um, it was like a platform to work where it was apart from everything else. So there is no like. I mean, I was in school at the time. I was studying, like in ninth grade or something. So um, I mean, there was no school issues or something. There was no uh, politics or whatever. It was just like my platform that was free from the outside world. So it was very, um, it was so easy to just focus on that. It was like it felt like the main thing. Like if I can put my energy into this, I will see it grow naturally. And I mean, so it did as well. And also me with it, I guess. But it felt like what I put in here is rewarding. That's what I want to say. Like the energy I spend here is rewarding for me personally as well. So I was really dedicated. Like directly, I was spending all my time on it. Like um, during those years of my youth, I was not like the one who was out with friends partying and stuff that much. That's what people did. They were meeting up with schoolmates and having parties and stuff. I was only about music. I was
Gotcha.
doing it. I was playing guitar all the free time. I was composing music. We were rehearsing a lot. We were rehearsing like 3 times a week at least. We spent as much time in the rehearsal room as we could. So it's easy to say, but yeah, I was definitely identifying myself with this. Like it was the main thing. It was like synonym with being myself during those years.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly dedicated, but also highly rewarding in many ways. Because I think it helps for someone to have like a strive and a focus, because it's. I'm not gonna say that it's like a escape, but it's a counterbalance to everything else that you're doing in life.
Mm.
When you can focus so heavily on a project that is all about freedom. You see what I mean?
Fuck yeah. I know
Um,
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
so I would call it a counterbalance in that sense, and I think that's really helpful to um, you know that like as long as I have this, I'm cool. I mean, not cool like I'm cool, but I'm fine. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I
uh,
understand you.
so
Yeah.
the rest doesn't matter to me so much. Like, if this or that happened, no, it's fine. I'm focusing on this anyways. So it's like keeping you um, straight on your path through life, and I think I was really growing with the band. Not I don't know who was pulling who, but
Sure.
well,
Yeah, I guess I asked a valid question then. No, listen, man, I totally relate to what you were saying. I think what's really cool about it is I kind of alluded to this a bit earlier, where I said that it's important to find your own identity through this and that personality that's on the stage. Obviously, it's not, I guess, not just in the stage environment, but also
mm,
in the studio, but also when you're writing the music. um, I think that pursuing that, especially as a young man, is extremely important because one thing that I recognized as I got a little bit more mature and I kind of reflected back on things, I realized that wow, this whole journey of like songwriting and going on stage and performing and sitting at the back of cars in the middle of the fucking night and all these like traveling and things
yeah,
and meeting different people, for me personally at least, the biggest takeaway of it was actually the fact that I got to know myself in a sense where I otherwise wouldn't have done. Now, you do this by pursuing the person that you are as a frontman, as a songwriter, as a musician, all of the above. But also, what I find is very powerful in one's own personal transformation is that once you have gone through that, to recognize that you're not just Simon from Valkyrja, that you can be more
right,
than that, and that
right,
you are more than that, and that there are
right.
more characteristics and things that are attached to you as a human being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I absolutely. But I'm just saying, stating that in those young years, it's very encouraging
Yeah,
to focus on that. But absolutely, I agree. And then, I mean, there's other things to life as well. I know that too. But I was especially talking about those like founding years. That was where it was like really a major part of my development. I think. I also find it like you would probably agree. Like I grew up like outside of Stockholm, like in a very small town, if you could even call it a town. But being engaged in this kind of music definitely made you an outsider, like absolutely. And I think that's really helpful as well because you are as an outsider challenging yourself in other ways that I don't think people really do otherwise, especially not at that young age. And you're doing it by free will. I
yeah,
think that really um, evolves you as a person. To I want to be here because like not that you're afraid of the other world, but you want to be there. You are like a way, yeah. You're choosing another path, and that's courage. Takes courage as well.
yeah, 100%. I'm totally with you on this. I think it's that the way I am sort of structuring this is that in those earlier adolescent years, it's extremely important for, especially for a man, to find his own path and identity, as dangerous as it may be, as rebellious as it may be, and to be able to embrace it and really chase it and see what's behind the veil, because it's something that's, in my opinion, it's a high risk, high reward situation. But
Exactly. You need to look into the shadows and see what you find. It's not always so pretty, but if you just go to
exactly,
the light at any time, you know what you find. But you need to challenge
exactly.
yourself in that way.
Precisely, and I think this is what's valuable about it, and you wholly embrace that, but for me personally, like, I had lived as that frontman character for so many years, where it was like if anyone asked me who I was, my answer automatically at the time would have been I'm Cheyenne from Trivex, even though obviously I would still have a job or something. And it's like I think there is a healthy thing to that because it's your outlet, it's the thing that that all of your soul, your spirit, your love, your energy, your hate, everything just gets pulled into that one focal spot. I think it's very
Right.
powerful to have that as a man, as a
Yeah.
young man especially. And that doesn't have to be just music. For someone, it could be simply, I don't know, just going to the military or becoming a fighter or just having a career or whatever it is where it takes that degree of you have to go against the world to really find your own path.
Yeah.
But
That
what I'm
builds
saying,
some confidence and all of it. It's many things coming with it.
yes, precisely. And what I'm saying with that is once you have found it, then it is okay and it is healthy to realize that, okay, I found this, I've got this, but this is still not all of me. That you are still someone who's capable of doing other things, and if anything, that should give you the courage to have ownership of your life, whether it's with relationships, whether it's with business or whatever. I mean, I'm sure, like you said, for example, that you started your own business, what was it, like 2 3 years ago?
I was
So
7 years ago almost, but yeah,
okay, so even longer, so 7 years ago. Do you think that's something that you would have ever done had you never started Valkyria?
not sure about it. I chose that path because I wanted freedom and flexibility. So that's very likely that it was because of that, right? Yeah.
Very well. So it's all in the path of freedom and taking ownership and control
Yeah.
of your life, which, by the way, I
And
am
accepting
all about.
risks.
And accepting risks,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So it's not like it's all gonna be like a bed of roses all the time. There's gonna be hard times,
Right.
and yeah, yeah. But that's good. I like this. This is the thing that I am always drawn towards as well. It's all about that freedom, like having discipline and being able to take ownership of your life as a man and your life and what you can do and just living it as best as you can, by your own standards and by your own values and not what the world tells you to do.
Yeah. No, and I think in my case, it clearly did a lot for me to be engaged in music so early. And I was like just about 20 years or something when we started touring. So that was also very, I don't know, it felt at the time really, really special to be able to do those kind of trips, like going to play abroad or sharing the stage with bands that I knew of, and be recognized in that world as well. At that age was definitely good.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, and it's like you're talking about it, but it's not like these are exactly very easy conditions either, it's not like you're in
No,
a
no,
van, and then you've got perfect air conditioning, and then you've always got fans waiting outside, you've always got the perfect meal, perfect shower after a show. Fuck no, it's
always,
never like that.
always.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
I
there's
guess
been
it,
tough ones, absolutely.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But
I
I mean,
guess if
that's helping. That's what we talked about before as well when we were talking about like creativity and such. You had some rough ones as well, and it helps you. Like it's good to be through some turbulence as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, man, it's ingrained in our fucking DNA to have to go through struggle. It's
Yeah,
in there, we have to survive against something, and even if the world doesn't give us a struggle, I think we should create our own, if anything, because that's the thing that then.
outlive it.
Yeah, exactly. If
Yeah,
like that's the way I look at going to the gym. I think that when I wake up, well, I don't have to go fucking hunt for food or anything. Then at least create some kind of a simulation where you have to go through some kind of a minor struggle. It's still very
yeah,
convenient, but it's better than just fucking sitting on your ass and not doing anything at all.
right. No, and that's how the world looks right now, right? It doesn't look like it's getting much better in this
No.
sense, in this context with like how the world is developing.
No, I agree, and this is, but rather than have the cynical approach of just sitting down and thinking, well, the world is going to shit. I guess I'm going to shit with it. I think no, well, just fucking you take control, and we take control one person at a time. As long as we do our
Absolutely.
part, I think that's what matters. And if you're bound to lead, then lead by example, if anything, and if
Yeah.
not, then at least you got yourself covered.
I'm just happy that I was like probably one of the last generations that were still like playing in the forest as a kid. Probably the kids today are smarter, but in other ways.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That
mean,
you make
I
it.
didn't have any iPad to learn things. I
Mhm.
didn't know much else than the regulars. So the kids today are given a whole different chance. But
But
we were
also,
saying
how much
before,
do kids today have creativity? Because I think that one problem that happens, and I felt this way about school back in Iran, is that when you, but I'm sure it's the same a lot of other places as well. Probably is in the States, I think is quite like that. But I think when you overload kids' heads with bullshit, unnecessary information, you kill their creativity, and that's one of the worst things you could do to a child,
yeah, I think
or a
it's
teenager.
yeah, can be focus problems and so on, I guess, like fear of being restless.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned about kids like being on fucking iPads and shit. Just think of like the whole thing with social media that they're all dragged into. Like they never, or like the shit that they watch on TikTok, for example.
Yeah.
Never anything where anyone comes and encourages them. Hey, you should eat healthy. You should lift weights. You should read on philosophy or whatever, or just get educated on things. Don't have to be extremely deep about it. But then, meanwhile, they're getting exposed to all kinds of content about like, oh yeah, if you fucking set your hair on fire, then people will like your video and then they'll share it around and you'll become famous because that's a fucking goal to have. It's like, what are we doing here?
Do it.
But you know what I'm saying, and then like
That's a
the
talent,
opposite
though.
of it, in China, they're giving their kids educational content because that's the only thing they're allowed to watch. And then over here, kids are just basically exposed to absolute intellectual degradation, really.
Yeah, another way of doing it, but I don't like the state control there either. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I have a solution here. I'm just saying it's a different arena nowadays. I'm just glad I was born earlier on.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm with you too. I don't think it's something that should be controlled by state, but first and foremost, I think it's important to at least recognize the weaponization of the content, right?
Right? That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And
How
then
do you
if you do
control it
that,
then?
parents and what they let their kids get exposed to, not the
Yeah.
state, but the parents, right?
Yeah.
That would be my solution.
Are we gonna trust all the parents in the world then? Is that our future? Yeah, we
Fuck
kind of
no.
have to. Yeah.
No, because parents are just babies that grew up. They're still babies, like that's what, you know.
Yeah.
That's what we all are, It's just like it's fucking out of control, it's yeah, like there's no perfect solution, but that also should never mean that all right then fuck it, it's all fucked. Let's just give up hope and go into the void and forget. Like even though as black metal bands that's all we fucking sing about. As far as like practical use, I don't think that's actually the way to do it, personally.
Depends. Mentally, maybe. Maybe some void could be helpful.
Yeah, yeah. If you put your bullshit in the void, if you put your excuses in the void, that's very helpful. That's right.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how we got here, like into this topic.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Well, this is Iblis Manifestations, man. This is what we do best. We're constantly trying to decode and break down the universe. Um, um but yeah. I mean, onto that topic, you met Jordan Peterson, right?
yeah, that's true. That was like a year ago, a bit more than a year ago or something.
Oh, that's not even that long ago, huh?
No, but like it might look like it was a big thing or something, but I'm just gonna say this out straight. Like now we're gonna talk about it though, but like I told you before, I've been like a bit like not so active on social medias and stuff, and I actually got like my private Instagram account about that time. And it was like just one of the first things that I did after, like, oh, I'm gonna post this. So maybe it looks like it's a big part of my life, but it's not. It just happens to be like right when I started with my
Okay, sure,
Instagram.
but even then, it's not like something that happens all the time. I mean, I
Right,
don't
right.
agree with the guy on everything, and I definitely
No,
feel like
no,
he's
no.
deteriorated
That's valid
a
points
lot
for
the last
sure.
few
Like
years.
I like mostly what I do like about it is the like how to set focus and like calibrate your mind towards progress. That's one of the things that I was one of his key things that I really like. Like for example, like if if you're not doing anything, you're setting too high goals. So like lower the goal to something you can achieve, and then you hire them by time and stuff like that. Like it's simple to say it. Like this is just an example, but it's actually to make like progress as a like constant factor and natural thing for your being.
It's like
Which I think.
progressive overload, but with your goals in life, right?
No, but there are several things that you can do the cherry picking. I don't agree with all of it, absolutely not.
Mm.
But there is some cherry picking there is good.
I think that should be the thing with everything.
Yeah,
You
right.
should always cherry pick. Doesn't matter who it is that you're following, or whatever podcast you listen to, whatever book you read, or whatever religion you study, or even follow. You should always cherry pick. Like for me, there's a lot of people that I personally look up to, and there's not one of them that I 100% agree with on everything, you know,
Yeah,
because
right.
then what is the fucking
Yeah,
point, then you're just like a copycat. And it's not to disagree for the sake of it, but it's just that I think it's something that naturally occurs when you're being authentic.
yeah. I actually read this book, the 12 Rules for Life, like just some week before that or something, and then a friend said, I have 2 tickets to see Jordan Peterson, and I was like, what the fuck? I just read his book. Like I didn't even know it was a big thing or something. I just wanted to read that book,
Interesting.
and then I'm like, okay, sure, I'm joining. So that's the story.
And did you have any positive takeaways from that perhaps you were able to apply to, I don't know, business or anything in general that you learned from it that you think, oh yeah, this is quite useful?
Yeah, I mean this thing about progress for sure. Like and to always like kind of have tidy the room or whatever he says. Like always try to clean your space. Like be ready. So like don't leave shit behind.
Mm.
But yeah, there's small things to apply to life. I mean, I did it before as well. Like I would never leave my apartment without like tidying in the kitchen first, because when I come home I don't want to start with the struggle. I want to start with like, now I want to cook or something, then I want to cook. I don't want to start with like taking care of the dishes from yesterday. But that's something I did already, but those kind of things.
Which are actually very valid and valuable, and I don't think enough people talk about that. And you know what? I'll tell you an interesting anecdote, or at least a thought process I have behind the whole cleaning your room thing. And this will appear superficial to some, but I think it's still worth the consideration. But I think that, everywhere you go, like life is energy. So there's energy happening everywhere. We are energy. Then there's energy in rooms, in places, and there's energy that belongs to objects, as well as, of course, living beings. And there's and everything that we have got comes from this earth, which is a source of energy, and it holds this powerful wave. But I feel like, even though perhaps the two might not seem to coincide often, the two perspectives, I feel like if you have a room or a space in general where everything is very untidy, I feel like energy doesn't travel through it as well. Now, by energy, we could also refer to the fourth dimension, or the spiritual realm. I think that spirits don't travel around as well if a place is untidy. Now, I know this might seem totally crazy, but I think not crazy, but I think it's an idea that
I
might
get what you
seem
mean.
very, yeah, yeah. I think it might be an idea that might seem very abstract, but it is something that I feel, because there's this lightness that you feel when you clean up your space, and then you put everything where it needs to be. When you sit down, you feel lighter in your chest. It's that you don't even
Absolutely.
have to look around at it, but just knowing that it's been done. It's a feeling. It's not a thought. Like it's a very complex thing. I don't know how to exactly pinpoint it, but that's, I think, the best I can describe
Some of
this
the
thing.
it's definitely a valid point. uh I think there's those things that would like interrupt your energy in that sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you don't come to your full potential if there's obstacles or things like everything that is like kind of where you would put your thought is going to take energy from you. Like if you think, I have to do this or I have to do that, or like, why didn't I do this earlier? It takes too long time to do that. That's already energy spent,
E-
wasted, even.
exactly. And think of it like this, right? Uh, Perhaps I can describe this in a better way, and this will especially be helpful, I guess, to the creative types. Um, but let's say that your brain is constantly producing these waves. It's almost like radio waves, and this is true. Our brains do this thing, and there's a lot you can look into about how you think of someone just before they ring you, and all these things that happen to us all the time. um, but I think that the way you can look at it is the fact that your brain is producing brainwaves, and this is going outwards, right? So it's filling up the space around you. If you clear up the space around you, at least in a sense that it makes sense and it is tidy and it is organized in a specific manner, I feel like it's those brainwaves that travel better. So the energy I'm speaking to could just be your own brainwaves. And I think if your brainwaves are able to travel more clearly without obstacles and are able to bounce back properly, I think you can think clearer. Therefore, you can channel ideas in a more effective manner.
I totally agree, and yeah, that's what I mean as well. Like you can go
Right.
straight to your point instead of like having to fight through those tons of thoughts or obstacles or whatever it is that you're facing.
Fuck
So
yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
agree. This is also why I practice meditation as well to like reduce the buzz, silence it.
Right. Right. What sort of what's your routine looking like? How often do you do this? What time of the day? What's
I,
your general protocol?
I do it every day when I get home. Like from when I'm done with my day, I want to kind of shake it off and get into the night, and then I want to clear my mind the best I can. Uh, I think it's important. It's important because otherwise you may like. Okay, to me it's important. I shouldn't say not to anyone, but to me it's important because otherwise I would like keep on rushing and doing things as quickly as possible because that's what I'm doing during the day. Like I'm trying to make use of my time and point A to B as fast as possible. Okay, now I have this task. Let's do it as quick as possible. It's like it's almost a mindset, and the coming home should be differently. I don't want to have time as a constant like reminder of how that it's passing. Like I want when I'm home and want to do my things, I want it to take the time it does. If I'm cooking or something, I want to be engaged in that and not like have to do it as quickly as possible just because I need to eat before 7. I don't want to
Mm.
think about that. I want to go into the natural flow. And I think it's also important because it's one of the few moments where you can really listen to yourself or whatever you want to call it. But I think that if you're participating in the outside world a lot, you learn to judge yourself from the eyes of a spectator. Like you will kind of judge yourself by as an outsider, like as an outsider would judge you, because you start to think that things are important to you that your colleagues or friends think is important, but not that you think are important. Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah,
this
yeah.
to me, this is a chance to like silence this buzz that is kind of overwhelming sometimes, and it's the only chance we have to that I have to like lift the inner voice and hear like, okay, here I am, and this is actually what I think. You know,
Definitely, man. Definitely. I think that's such a powerful thing. I don't think we take enough time to focus on things in such a way. I certainly feel like I don't, even though I might sound like I do just from the way I think, because I do reflect on things a lot, but I always lead it leave it to build up too much. So when it comes to thinking, it's just like an overwhelming fucking flood of everything and information
Hmm.
that comes out, and then there's as soon as it makes room for information, other information goes in, and then it starts fucking turning again. It's a funny thing that goes on in my mind. But so when you do the meditation, do you do any specific like breathing techniques? Do you listen to anything? What's the setup like normally?
Either guided ones, or you can put on some like whatever, like ambient music or something, or it also works with complete silence. It depends
Mm.
on how used you are to do it. If someone is interested in doing it, I would start doing like guided ones, which is actually working well. But the thing is, like, if you're doing it, you have to take it serious. You cannot think like you cannot feel stupid about it or something. And also, I think one of the mistakes in from what I understand is that people often see this as like as a state that you're when you're meditating, you're like that, like you're completely relaxed, and I cannot do it. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, it takes practice to do it, and that's like the goal. But meditation is like the tool to do it, and it's to actually sit down and do nothing. That's what it's about, and it's not easy. There's days that it's extremely punishing to do it. If you're someone who's like me, sometimes like torturing myself with like too high speed, like stressing too much and so on, it can be extremely punishing to sit there and like try to relax and like, oh shit, what am I doing, and it's tons of thoughts coming, and you just have to break through it. That's punishing.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not like, oh, I'm sitting here and it's such a beautiful state and I'm like in this beautiful place. No, it can be very, very tough, and the meditation is a tool. uh,
Yeah, I'm
so,
really glad that you brought on that aspect of it, because it is true. I mean, it's all about, like you said, sitting with your thoughts. I mean, and then sometimes those thoughts are not going to be nice. I think, in fact, probably most of the times they're probably going to be quite harsh. I mean,
yeah.
for me, it's like, something I said like 3 months ago to someone in
Yeah.
passing that will come back to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fuck you, idiot! Why did you say that?"
And at
Those
this
kind of
time,
things.
you should let everything just pass. You get the thought,
Yeah,
try to let go of it, and then your next will come, and it will come, and it will come. Like it
yeah.
takes effort to stop it. It's not
One of my
easy.
favorite methods that I came across was in Wim Hof's book, where
Mm-hmm. Yep.
his way of, obviously he is like very well known for what he's done
Yep.
as far as like breathing techniques and a cold exposure and whatnot. I'm also really
Yep.
big into cold as well. I had like a
Mm-hmm.
13-minute cold bath this morning, and that's one of my big meditations.
Yeah.
The style of breathing that he was talking about, obviously he's got his own methods and lots of different things, but
I
just as far
practiced
as,
this too, so yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
oh, yeah, it's a great method. I
Yeah.
love doing it. You can do like 3 rounds of it, and it just completely resets your body and mind. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. So there's that, but then also in his book, which I've read, there is a section where it actually shows you how to do the meditation itself, which is just meditation, which is basically more like what you're explaining.
Yeah.
And he says it's very simple. I do this normally when I'm on airplanes, and on flights, just to kind of forget that I'm, not to forget that I'm there, but just kind of go through it, and it's really relaxing. I find after a while, once you get into the flow of it. And it's to breathe from 1 to 7, and then back from 7 to 1, and then back from 1 to 7 without pausing. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that sort of thing, in like a flow, and
Yeah.
each number you're breathing in and out, and he says to just like keep counting in your head as you're breathing until the number just fades into nothingness, and then you come to this like sense of just being present, which is very basic meditation practice. But I found that to be a very useful technique for
Did you
anyone who's
try it?
interested in trying, or even if you want to try it. Yeah, yeah, I found that to be a really good one. Like I said, every time I'm on a plane, because I fucking hate being on planes, but I
Mm-hmm.
also like it because it makes me uncomfortable. I always like to do that meditation thing. It's pretty
Mm.
useful.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna try it as well. I didn't do exactly that one, but it's different techniques. But once you kind of, I don't know how to say it. Once you know it, if I can say like that, you can do it anywhere. That's the thing.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
just
man.
about letting go.
It's all about letting go.
And
Fuck
that's
yeah.
powerful by itself. Just think about it.
It is. It is. I
Yeah.
have thought about it, and I am thinking about it again now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's it helps. To me, it really helps. I mean, everyone needs to find their own reason if they even need one. But I think to listen to your inner voice is not a bad idea.
I
Not to,
think to listen to your inner voice is everything, and unfortunately, so much of the time we ignore that thing that
yeah,
sometimes I think we as humans, we are like a guitar, we have our own tunings, and sometimes when you don't listen to your intuition enough, you kind of go out of tune, and
yeah,
then it sort of feels like your life is not really in your hands. And it takes discipline, it takes physical exercise, it takes breathing, it takes meditation, it takes sleep, it takes thoughts, it takes reflections to tune yourself and your thoughts. And it's almost
yeah,
like the gut feeling, to me, is a very literal thing. I feel like the
right,
gut actually sends a signal, from whether it's the microbiomes or whatever it is. It sends a signal, and it's almost a voice that you can hear from your stomach that says,
right,
yeah, you should do this, you should do that. And right
yeah.
now, Simon, if I may say, my gut feeling is telling me to wrap up this episode. How does that sound?
Okay, all right. You're probably right about it, huh?
Yeah, I think we've covered some amazing topics here, man. Simon, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast tonight, man. It's been a fucking really cool discussion, And like I said to you before, I'm a huge fan of Valkyria. I've followed you guys for like well over a decade at this point. Really appreciate what you do, and I look forward to what you have coming up. Obviously, no pressure there, but I do look forward to what will be coming, and obviously the 20-year anniversary. And congratulations on what you got going with Marduk as well. That's a hell of a fucking milestone, man. What have you got coming up for us that you can share with the audience? Anything you want them to keep an eye out for?
Well, on the Marduk side, there is the show in December in their hometown in Norrköping, the December Darkness Festival. There is also a festival in Oslo, I think, in January. And then I cannot say so much more, but there is some more coming up as well. And about
Awesome.
Valkyria, I will. We need a solid plan, but it's coming.
It
It
is
has to
coming.
be cherished and celebrated. Absolutely, it's a 20 years thing. So
Fuck yes, that sounds like a plan. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Simon, once again, thank you so much, brother, for joining me on Iblis Manifestations. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to whenever I bump into you again. You
right,
still have to show me Stockholm, so I look forward to whenever
absolutely,
we end up doing that.
I'll be your guide.
Yes, fuck yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much, and to everyone else listening to the podcast as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It's been a killer one. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations.